Join me in a short prayer. Dear God, we come before you today with grateful hearts, thanking you for bringing us all together with this new group of council members. We praise you for the opportunity to connect and learn and grow together. May your spirit of unity guide us as we build this community. Please bless everyone here to serve and uplift each other. Amen.
Amen.
And join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here for this special meeting to discuss EMS situation proposal. Welcome. I was hoping to do it in official monthly meeting capacity, but welcome to our new council folks. And apologize up front for this being the start because this is very in-depth. And so we're going to give some historical perspective on why we are where we are today with this request. But there are, as you can see in front of Jason, reams of data that we've poured through, plus our whole budget process. And it's a lot to absorb. And nobody's expected to fully understand all of it, right? So we're just going to have some, great discussion today. We'll try to keep this moving because we could deep dive the heck out of this. But I think best explained by Commissioner Howard and Jason himself what this request is all about.
Thank you. And I'm going to focus on EMS. So if you think I'm jading any other entity, it's not the case, okay? I want to start with that. Thank you all, first of all. I'm going to struggle through this. I apologize.
Thanks for being here, Will. I know.
So bear with me. So we'll give you some historical information here. About 10 months ago, we came in front of council and asked them to reevaluate what EMS looked like, what the wage structure looked like, what the market looked like, and how we could move forward to make Steuben County EMS successful going forward for the safety and well-being of our community. And council was very receptive to it, made some huge decisions to kind of bring us into the marketplace, to bring us up to speed with what was required to hire medics. We implemented the program. It worked for a very brief period. The market changed. And that's not to say it won't change again. I'll clarify that right away. We were competitive wage-wise, competitive in all respects. The job, the qualifications requirements, the requirements of each of our talented and crafted employees to do their job and provide the service. The market changed. It just literally changed. We're in a position where we are a public entity and the entities that we essentially compete with are private sector entities. So they can do essentially what they want when they want. And they can be subjective about what they do. They don't have to be objective like we have to. Or we have to be fair to every single employee of ours in an equal manner. They don't necessarily have to do that. So let's go back to, I think it was April, wasn't it March, April last year when we did this? We brought everyone's pay up to be competitive with area markets. And then the market changed. So we were at, what was our rates at that time?
19 for an EMT, 21 for an advanced EMT, and 23 for a paramedic plus years of experience. And this was 2023 when we did this, not 2024.
2023, correct, yeah.
And you all have that wage ordinance in front of you.
keep forgetting we just switched gears. So with that said, the market changed. This is an employment group where there are not a bunch more of these types of employees. So essentially, we're competing with other entities for the same group of employees. There are not more paramedics and more MTs coming off the line every day. So that's a time situation, and that's not just localized to our area of the world, that's nationwide. So the only way you draw employees in is by providing a better thing than where they're at now. You have to bring them from somewhere else. Back when we raised those wages, all of a sudden the market changed and the average, well, there was a number of dynamics. First of all, there were some fire territories, fire districts being created in which if you are a paramedic and a firefighter, both, you were offered a position in the $70,000 a year range, working 9 24-hour shifts a month. Pretty attractive, especially if you were paying $52,000. Is that a pretty fair statement?
Pretty accurate.
Okay, then we had other players in the market, which turned and increased their base wage upwards of $28. So I'm not going to use paramedics across the board as I reference these. Plus, they each received incremental increases based on their credentials that they held, not necessarily their skill level, but the credentials. So if you had a CPR instructor certification, if you had a NICU spec, if you had, all the various credentials that they can hold, they got, 50 cents or $1 more an hour. So those folks were coming in at well over $30 an hour if they had just 2 or 3 items in addition to their basic needs. In addition to that, you had an entity in the market which was being subsidized by a government entity to the point where we'll give you one particular example. We had a part-time employee who was a fantastic paramedic, came up, worked shifts, but that particular entity in Fort Wayne, he was able to make $75 an hour. It's kind of hard to hire somebody at 24 or 26 bucks an hour when they can go somewhere else and make 75. The market's chasing the dollar. So what do we do? How do we get back? How do we compete? How do we fill the seats in our trucks? That's the bottom line. What we're proposing, is it going to solve it? It did once. It may for a short period of time. It may last a long time. We don't know that because that market's changing and it's very competitive. So through a lot of analysis that you see, we've come and looked at, so what do we do? Do we try and match what they're doing? Do we try to exceed what they're doing? Do we try to put everything on a level playing field? We've looked at, okay, what's it look like if we bring the base wage up and then add those experiences to it, as some of them did? What's that look like? What does it look like if we just bring everybody up to a straight flat wage based on their certification levels? What does it look like if we look at doing objective and subjective types of analysis on the employees? And we've done that. We had HPG come in and look at that for us, and that still has a little bit of merit, but it's a long ways away from being a realistic implementation. So let's go back and look at some historical things again. We'll go back to first when Council made the decision to go ahead and increase wages, and we were able to fill all of our trucks with full positions. We had a good part-time roster. We were even, for a short period of time, be able to put that third truck on during the heavy traffic times. In this particular department, what we find is that the revenues follow the expenses. I've said that before. And I'll continue to say it, and I think that's the appropriate way to say it. You provide the service, the revenue lags about 90 to 120 days because of collections. So you're putting money out, you're receiving money for the services you're providing, ambulance services, medical services. So this is one, I'm not saying all departments in the county don't do this, but this is one department that actually produces a significant amount of revenue for the services they're providing. So it's an unusual situation. So back when we were able to put those 3 ambulances on and run them, what we were seeing was that the thing, 60 to 90 to 120 days later, the revenue started going up. Well, all of a sudden it took another direction when those part-time people who were providing that additional service to the county went elsewhere. And some of our full-time staff saw the ability to improve their revenue situation by going elsewhere. Plain and simple. They chased the money. So now we're back in the same place again. And we're looking to try and do something similar to what we did the first time. It showed that it worked. The only problem is the market changed. I'm not sure how we can control that market though. Other than by hiring employees, getting them here, keeping them happy, keeping them working, providing a good environment for them to be in and supporting what they do. So the nuts and the short of it is what we're asking for is through all the analysis, we believe that that's not the one. If we bring paramedic pay up to $32 an hour, the advanced EMT, ALS, back to $26 an hour, and EMT to $23 an hour, along with appropriate increases for our administrative staff, then we can right the ship once more. Now,
Those wages, please.
Ruth,
you may have a spreadsheet in front of you.
Oh, on today.
so your far right column is the proposal. So many papers, so
There's a lot of
help
paper.
me and I'll help you. We'll try to find our way through.
There's a
Yep,
lot of
keep going.
paper.
That one right there. There you go.
That's there, yeah, on the left, but yeah.
Side of that page. This is a page I'm working off of.
With the little box at the bottom.
And so
Option 1, option 2, option 3.
in your far right column,
Doesn't spell out the hourly wage.
Hourly
Here
wage
it is.
and the option 1, option 2, option 3.
So here, stuff, straight time pay.
Oh, okay.
This is.
Say on this, this is the
Okay,
one
and
that's
then
from
this is
Aaron.
positions.
Okay. This is the one, all the way to the right is what he's talking about right now. So you'll see it says $32. And I'll say 26 for the
I'm gonna back up for the sake of everybody in the room and do, you come up to 30,000 foot over this thing, just to give a little perspective, okay? What we're up against with this department is basically, obviously, Part B and It still is beyond me why Parkview wasn't considered in the WIS study. I don't get why we paid for the WIS on EMS if they're not going to include Parkview in the analysis. I'm very irritated by that. But the reason Parkview can do whatever Parkview needs to do is because when it comes to ambulatory services, they're not making money on running ambulances necessarily. They're probably losing money on it, but it drives downstream revenue. So if you're needing an ambulatory service and Parkview can run it, then let's say you had a heart issue, you're going to see a Parkview cardiologist when you hit that. They're going to make so much money on everything they do from imaging to continuation of care that they don't care what they have to spend to be the ambulance service that picks you up. And they're trying to choke out all of the competition around them. My personal opinion, there's no way we win this fight. My personal opinion is moving to here. It's exactly what Will just said it is. It might help him grab a couple of people right now that are more interested in working here in Steuben County or not having to drive down there or whatever, but that's who we're losing people to. I don't know that there's a fix. So we've chosen to be our own county EMS service because we know we are delivering better response times and taking care of our constituency better running our own EMS. Okay. I think this is 4 meetings now we've had since this became a problem for actually when we were hiring our current director. In each of these meetings when we've discussed what the issues are and what we're up against being a county-based EMS, I've stated the same thing. I feel like there's no way we win by standing alone as a county. There's no way this is sustainable. We can fill the trucks. They have a sustainable model. Like Will says, the revenue follows the expenses. Do we mind spending some extra money, even if it doesn't break even, to provide the service ourselves? If it's a better service, I have no problem with that. That's for everybody to decide. But it's a very unique model that DeKalb didn't sustain, and they gave it up. They wish they had it back now because of the level of service that they're getting. But and if we could just fill the trucks and be competitive on wages, it is a great model, 100% for maintaining our own county. But I don't think with the amount of expenses that are associated with it, and we're only talking operating dollars right now when we're talking about revenues following expenses. We're not talking about our CapEx investment. What do we have in the 2 ambulances ordered for $700,000 for 2 ambulances? They're needed. These things don't hold up that long. They get used hard. We have facilities around it that's part of our CapEx, and we have facility changes, potentially coming that need to happen. There's a tremendous amount of expense in all this. So as we as council are looking at what we're doing here, we need to keep in mind the CapEx behind this. If we keep, moving wages, it's a complex world about reimbursements in the medical industry. And so there's a lot of write-offs and a lot we don't get reimbursed for. But overall, we're coming close to pretty much breaking even, right?
Breaking even, including the cost of the ambulances?
No.
No, okay.
Without the CapEx.
I might argue yes.
Maybe if we.
And I'm not saying we need to break even, I just wanted to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. But what I've said for 4 times now, today would be the 5th, as we've worked through EMS in the last, I'll say 4 years, is that to me, the solution is in a partnership with those that benefit. We potentially could go talk to DeKalb. I have no idea where that situation lies. You guys might know a lot more about where they're at than I am. And what's the authority called down in 3 Rivers?
Draw.
Okay. Down Adams County and
Three Rivers is just drew a blank here.
It's a not-for-profit.
3 Rivers Ambulance Authority
It's
is
a
Draw,
for-profit, yeah.
which is now a private entity taken over by essentially Joel Benz and his group of people and funded by partially funded by the city of Fort Wayne now.
So in my mind, this is not me speaking for anybody else, but in my mind, the sustainable model would be to partner with shared expenses, CapEx expenses and labor operating expenses with our local hospital, potentially with another county, but form some sort of a partnership where all of this is shared and mutually beneficial. I mean, if we're driving downstream revenues for Cameron, that's wonderful. These are local docs providing these services. So anyway, that's my 30,000-foot view of this whole, I'll just call it a situation. But keep in mind as we're thinking about what we want to budget for here and what we can actually accomplish.
And I just want to clarify, when I asked about the cost of the ambulances being in there and saying that, I don't expect us to make money, because I do know that the other counties that have outsourced, don't have their own ambulance services anymore, do yearly give money.
Yeah, you have to spend money for the contract. to get
Yes,
those
so just clarification.
Yep. Christine?
The only thing that we are not at a model where we're breaking even right now. I mean, the budget is it's over 2 million, and we only brought in 1.7 this year. Now, granted, it was an increase, but my question about the increase, is it more runs, or is it about the fact that we switched billing companies and there was a delay in getting payment and those funds hit at the beginning of 2024? So is that increase in your revenue based on runs or just based on?
Captured revenue.
Huh? I mean, can we bet on that you're going to make 1.7 next year? Or do you think it's going to go? I mean, if you stayed where you're at, I mean, you and I have had this conversation, right? If we stay where we're at, you don't think that our revenue goes into the positive. You think it stays where it's at, or it might even go back some, because if we don't do this third truck 20, third shift.
And when I say close to breaking even, that's factoring that if we didn't have the service, that gap of $250,000, $300,000, I don't even know if that would cover your contract to get service. So there's some cost.
Okay, I apologize.
No,
I misunderstood.
you're good. Yeah.
If I can add to that, the revenue and the expense, the revenue follows the expenses, right? What we budget for and what we actually spend are two different things. Last year, 24, we didn't spend the entire budget.
Oh, you did not.
Our
You're right. I
revenues were
have that.
down, but so were the expenses.
Your revenue wasn't down. Your revenue was up by,
At 1.8 million, I'm going to say it was down because I projected it at about a little over 1 million.
oh, you thought it was going to hit 1.9 and we hit 1.7.
1.8 something.
That was the other truck full.
The
third truck.
So we hit 1.8, if my numbers are correct, we hit 1.87 million, rounded up.
Before, Will, you had done for us a chart of revenue.
I showed you historical data.
Yeah, do you have one of those in your pile of papers?
Oh, I do, yeah. So
So you have different numbers than what Jason provided us on his sheet, because his sheet is 1.762.
we've had, what I've done is taken numbers that the auditors provide. So is it possible that his numbers, the numbers that he's shown might be a little different? Mine are what was recorded between January 1st and December 31st.
The other thing to keep in mind is what happens when there's not shift coverage. Because a lot of people are willing to step up and take shift coverage that we're paying overtime. And thank God they're willing to do that. But as we affect these raises in that department in particular, we're very overtime heavy.
So we're really counting on.
Historically,
Those positions
In theory, the more they're full, the less.
overtime.
Yeah.
historically, 2024. My tracking that I have for revenue starts in 2015 and ends in 2024. And this is the second highest revenue period during that time, 2024.
Taking into account expenses, or you're just saying straight
Just
revenue?
revenue.
Okay.
So again, my question there is how much of that is influenced by the delay of the billing of switching billing companies? Do you think it influences it at all? I mean, what do you think caused?
It did it first, not now. It shouldn't be.
But that would have still been in 24.
Actually, I think that makes our return this year still lower than what it could have been because of the 3 to 5 months of lower collections during that period. We didn't collect less for a few months and then drastically increase. We didn't really collect anything for a couple months and then got to where our normal levels were and then slowly rose from there to a sustainable level. You also got to remember your payer mix drastically changes every month. Every couple of days it can change, but we ended last year at like 76% Medicaid, Medicare, which is the lowest reimbursement you'll get.
Yes.
We started off the first of the year, like the highest number we were seeing was like 42%. So now you got a 25% increase in private pay and commercial insurance and your numbers skyrocket. Also the amount of effort that Andy and myself put in for auditing every chart. We're not losing hundreds of thousands of dollars for signature problems or PCS form problems that aren't being completed. When I walked in the door the last day of 2022, there was a significant amount of money sitting there that was not collectible anymore, just from signatures, just because we weren't signing our chart or the patient wasn't signing that chart. I had pages worth of documentation of like, we just threw that money away.
Yes.
So when you submit for Medicare and Medicaid, if your documentation isn't perfect, your coding isn't perfect, the whole process isn't perfect, they just reject it.
Yep.
You don't get the reimbursement.
No, I will tell you, I watched you for 2 years. Your business side, as far as switching the billing companies and being on top of your charts, I applaud you on that. You have far exceeded in looking at it like it is a business and trying to capture as much as you can. My question about the fully staffed, have we ever been fully staffed when it comes to paramedics? Right, our EMTs in 2024, we got fully staffed in them, or the number that would have met what we were trying to do with the 2 trucks all the time and the 1 truck for 12 hours, right? So we got there with the EMTs, but we never got there with full-time with paramedics, right?
We were really close. The problem in 2024 that really hurt us is I had 2 long-term paramedics who were off for nearly a year apiece. So I was subsidizing their hours with me and Andy on the truck, or the part-time people who were picking up the 3rd truck and give me the flexibility are now picking up the 1st or 2nd truck just so we can meet the standard quota of 2 trucks in the county. So we were really close, and then 2 long-term employees off. 1 employee went to med school, the other employee went to PA school, 2 employees went to nursing school, 1 employee went to Parkview, 1 employee went to Fort Wayne Fire or Allen County Fire. Like,
So then can I ask why the proposal has new positions in it to make that 3rd truck go, fully to make it more? If we've been struggling to do what we needed to do with the 2 trucks and the 3rd one for 12 hours, why aren't we just focusing on getting to that? Why are we adding in other positions?
yeah, I'll answer that.
Okay.
I'll bring you back to 2023 again. When I first sat with you, I told you that the size of your county, your run volume plus transfers requires you to have 3 trucks in this county if you're going to provide 911 service to the residents. 2 trucks in this county, sending 1 truck out of the county 1,700 plus hours a year is not sufficient to maintain a standard 911 operating system. I can't do it. Me and Andy are on that truck multiple times a week, staying over the clock, doing transfers, covering sick calls. We were on the truck, I think, 3 times last week together on the same truck because of shortages, staying over, doing transfers. We can't sustain that model. The hope is with matching wages locally and being competitive, that I can get enough momentum to go all the way into that 3rd truck full time. If we set our standards on half that truck, and I have to slow down and can't hire people because I don't have other positions already approved, I feel like we're gonna hit a wall and we won't have the momentum we need to fill that 3rd truck. If I have that 3rd truck 24 hours a day, 7 times a week, there's at least another 600 transfers out of camera we can capture.
I thought you told me it was 1,200.
1,200 a year, we already do a little over 600. And an additional 600 plus transfers we can do out of that, just transfers.
The sheet I'm looking at from Aaron says we have open EMT positions without the new positions right now.
I don't know if we have the same data. I have 6 current open positions, yes, four on the third truck and 2 on the regular truck. I don't know if I would classify them as paramedic or EMT. I would like to have a paramedic on every truck. So if I have 3 full-time trucks, I have 3 paramedics at a time for day shift and night shift.
And to the respect of council, if I can add this, because we are public and not private, each time, if he were to get 12 qualified applicants and only had 4 positions to fill because we weren't filling that third truck, it takes 30 to 60 days to get in front of council again to try and get them filled, or try and get those added to it. If he's got people who are willing to go to work tomorrow, and you can't make them an offer within a reasonable time frame, they're lost.
But this council, every time, at least since I've been on, anytime you've needed something special and you need us to show up, we show up.
I don't expect you to do that. It's nice when you do it. I appreciate it.
I have a question too. You know, you're addressing, telling us what you want for full-time wages. But how's our part-time wages? In fact, you have, Kelly, the salary ordinance that we signed. So I can see, I don't have it in front of me, but you know, it's very cost effective to fill in with part-time. How many of the part-time people are paramedics?
I have 5 on the roster. I have 3 that pick up. One of them being a Fort Wayne firefighter captain who is working 48-hour shifts pretty consistently in Fort Wayne. So, and the other one, and they all work a full-time job in the EMS field somewhere else. So I don't have any bankers who are working Monday through Friday bankers hours and who want to do paramedic and on the weekends. They are working long hours, 18-hour shift, 24-hour shifts at their regular full-time job. And then we fight with, they can come up here for $30 an hour or $24 an hour, whatever the number is, but they can make $65 an hour on an overtime shift in Fort Wayne or in Allen County. So that's where I struggle. And on my spreadsheets, yes, this bottom green box is the part-time.
Okay, and so is your ask today to do something about part-time wages then also? We just haven't gotten there yet.
They've traditionally matched what our full-time wages were. The ask last month was I had 3 paramedics who had interviewed and applied, and they all wanted at least $27.50 an hour because that's what they're currently making in their part-time jobs. So I was trying to get a special permission to hire those people at that wage and move that part-time roster up with the anticipation of having this meeting and moving the full-time roster wages up as well. So I have 2 of them who agreed to come on temporarily to learn the system, and they're waiting to see what the wages get moved to. The third one was not willing to take that much of an hourly cut.
And you're talking part-time and you're talking paramedics.
Mm-hmm. The other thing we got to look at when we're looking at our roster is I have 2 employees that are going to retire the next 2 or 3 years. I have an employee who is about 4 months from finishing paramedic school, and he's fantastic. He's already a firefighter. He's already dually certified. He will go to a Fort Wayne Fire Department if he's not kept here. His girlfriend, same situation. Both can be fantastic firefighters. Both can be fantastic paramedics. So I'm fighting this, looking at the future of what I know I'm going to lose, the anticipation of some people who have some options. And then again, I want to provide the best service I can to this county. And I can't do it with 1 truck in the county, and I can't do it with asking people to work that many hours over and over and over and over.
Can I ask Aaron?
Absolutely.
So Aaron, if we did what is being asked, the EMT medic line in 1236 would go to what number? It's $969, $999 now. What would it go to?
You mean total?
Total.
Should be down on that box, but
In this box?
My calculation is $1,316,016.
1 million what?
$316,016.
Jim and I are off just a little bit, but it was 1.3. Ballpark.
You're drawing total wages.
And if we're looking at FICA and perf, because those also have the FICA and perf of the positions that are in general, right?
So you have it broken out on your spreadsheet actually a little bit because you do have, so EMS overtime and your administrative staff are paid out of general and then your base hours are paid out of the EMS lit. So you have it broken out separately on each option down at the bottom there. So your total salaries for general EMS and then FICA and perf broken out as well with the totals.
Correct. So instead of the 74,205, is it the 102, but I have to add their 18 that's below, right? You have to add the two numbers together to have the correct.
I'm not sure.
So the third, your spreadsheet, the third box
Down at the bottom.
at the bottom, you have FICA at 102,1183.
Yeah.
But I'd have to add their 18,935.26 to have the correct number inside of lit, correct?
The 18.
No, we're not, I'm not paid from the lit category.
Yeah.
No, but there isn't perf, I don't see perf or so FICA or Social Security come out of the general at all. So you pay all of them?
No, it's on there. It's on there.
Where?
Or comes out of the commission.
Are you talking about this, Christina?
Yeah,
It's in the commissioners.
Yeah, it's in the commissioner's budget.
so that 18,000 we don't even see inside of his budget.
No.
Because that's what's really part of it that is really confusing about when we're looking at budgets and we're talking about how much it costs is like that. So that 18,000 isn't there. The 4 new positions, we aren't talking about the health, $18,000 for health insurance for each of those that comes out of the commissioner's budgets, right?
But that comes out of the, yes, because the claims and everything are paid out of the commissioner's budget. So part of the EMS budget is in general, and then you have the EMS lit, and then you have 1176. Is that what it is?
1170.
So you have 3 different funds where things are coming from. Wages are primarily the general and the EMS lit.
I apologize. I did not know that their FICA and perf came out of the commissioner's budget.
But it's still in general. So
It's still in general, but it doesn't show when we're looking at total
Right.
numbers and when we're changing numbers, it's changing a different thing that we're not even looking at. So just the change to lit itself.
Which one, Christina? 1236?
1236, all I did was I'm adding in, if we went from the 969, if we went to the 13969.
996 on here.
I didn't look on there, I was just looking on this that came from the budget book. So those two numbers don't match. You have 996,283 on your sheet, but it looks like what was appropriated into that is 969,999. So your number's the number we should have been looking at?
Well, Jason, didn't you and I talk about that? And I talked to somebody about that, and I think you guys took it down a little bit because there's a lot of positions that aren't full. I forget who I talked to you about. We had a lot of conversations.
I'm certain you have a lot of conversations, Aaron.
The 969,999 is what was on my 2025 budget packet that was approved. I took those straight out of that packet. If you look at my spreadsheet.
I just wanted to know what the change would be to this one. 1316061.
$363,000.
I'm so sorry, but you do math so much faster than I do, Dan. How much of an increase is it to that budget?
$363,000. Plus.
Oh, you didn't add in the FICA and the perf? Hold on. I'm gonna just do the math. But you guys all be patient with me. I'm slow at my math. So we would be increasing in lit under the 1,000s. We would be going from the 1,152,844 to 1,567,378.49. I know they like to round it, so it would be 78. So that is a difference of $414,534. That is with FICA and FERPA in there, which I think we have to talk about because we have to pay it. So that fund was only under budget by $31.156. That's a lot of money to make up the difference. I would love to give you the moon. We'd have to figure out where the money is going to come from. I would love to give every department the moon. But at the end of the day, it comes down to where's the money supposed to come from? Right?
What will those extra 600 transfers if you had the third truck bring in?
So I did that from your numbers, you told me, with the low end being 700 and the high end being 2,500, right?
That's pretty close.
And I took them times 600.
Yeah.
And so somewhere between 420,000 and 1.5 million. And you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, right?
Correct.
Do that every day.
That is kind of funny. That makes you work so well.
Literally and figuratively.
But that's the range. Right? Because I took it times the big
Yes.
one.
You know, if it's done, you don't throw it at the wall.
That's right.
Yeah.
And our reimbursement mix is very fluid, I know. Is it in general trending one particular direction or another?
No, I ran data the first 2 years trying to figure out if there was anything that influenced it. Even the summer increase in run volume really doesn't purposefully change my payer mix. It's really about the chronic long-term conditions. We have a lot of retired people at the lakes. So we'll go through like a bad flu season, you get a bunch of retired people who are on Medicaid, Medicare, so your payer mix will jump up. And then we run a bunch of people who are on regular full-time insurance or commercial insurance, and then that payer mix drops back down. So I ran every number I could think of to try to give you a predictability option, and there's just not one.
So we've got, to Christina's point, Commissioner Howard, Commissioner Scheit in the room, been on council before.
I didn't see this again.
I mean, if I may, I'd like both of your thoughts on where this would come from.
So I'll go back to my original statement, but then I'll provide maybe a little data historically that I've had. The revenues will follow the expenses. Okay. If you take just those basic numbers of somewhere between 400,000 and 1.5 million, even if you use the most conservative number on that, you're still there.
But we're not there covering health insurance and and we didn't even talk about.
I would debate that to some extent, only from the standpoint, again, I don't have 100% of the data in front of me, but I got a good chunk of it using 2024 numbers. Excluding, well, I can give you through the end of October. I don't have November, December completed yet, but I do have the data for it. I can probably have that for you, within an hour if I sit down here and go through it. We were at, excluding health insurance, and just health insurance, we were at, through the end of October, a net operating revenue of about $195,000. That doesn't cover all of your insurance. That covers a bunch of it.
But that, I mean,
And again,
when you're talking about net, Will, though, right? You're not talking about the fact that I mean, when you talk net numbers, it's hard because you don't take in any of the CapEx
oh, but I do.
conversation. So you're saying it's net, we bought a
Historically-
Tahoe and 2 ambulances this year.
Historically, yeah. And you don't use all that ambulance up in 1 year. It has a lifetime.
Right, so,
I know you understand that. But if I go back historically, and I'm going back 8 or 9 years, again, excluding, if you take CapEx and your health insurance, just those 2 items, as not being included towards that net operating revenue that I've been working with. It ranges annually from 193,000 up to about 740,000,
your net
just depending on the run volumes in those years.
with,
So over time, over that life expectancy of an ambulance, say, is 7 years, does it incorporate all that? I think it does.
so,
Does it incorporate it if you take into the account that we would be paying for that service? It definitely does.
so I just took,
It costs you about roughly, I mean, the fuel that we're paying for and everything else, roughly 60,000 a year per ambulance in operating expenses, fully depreciating the ambulance,
Yeah, probably. That's not an unreasonable.
top of my head.
oh, I didn't,
Pay rates, and yes, I know
I mean,
that.
just if you amortize what you spent for it
So-
over its life expectancy.
so I did that. If a new bus is 350, a remount is 250, takes 125,000 to put the 5 pieces on it. That bus is 725,000. You get 9 years out of it. That's a roughly $405,000 a year that each bus costs.
No.
105,000.
Oh, I'm sorry. I took it then times.
Yep.
And then I took it times all the buses.
Yep, yep.
Then take it time.
I'm sorry. I missed one jump.
And
So
that
we,
doesn't encompass fuel repairs.
no fuel and no service contract.
Just keep in mind the service that you're providing.
For sure. And the effort on our director and assistant directors, the effort that they put forth to keep the department running it's immense and appreciated. And it's not lost on anybody.
No.
Bill?
At that, I'd like to speak up on something.
Sure.
I've been around the EMS fire for years and years and years. And the people we hire in this county, we always used to hire a lot, excuse me, from in the county. It boils back to having a profession that you love, you won't work a day in your life. And I think a lot of our EMS people that we've had over the years, I think it all starts with morale at home. And I'm not gonna pick on you, because Jason, I don't know you that well. But from talking to some of the retired and some of them that are on duty now, that starts the morale. They want to be appreciated. And when we're talking money, I think if you learn to live within, I always like to use that, learn to live within taking home $750 a week, you'll live in it, or 1,000 or 1,500. In Steuben County, and I've bragged this around the world, we may not be the richest people in the world, but you know what? We're pretty happy here in Steuben County. It all starts with being appreciated. Do you want your employees to feel like they're a number? Or do you want them to feel like they're a part of an organization that stands out and shines around the world? Okay. And in my opinion, that's how we've always run our business. We want to look like we're professional. Okay. And I think Jason's done very well with that. But he's got some good people. I think he's got some people that maybe don't feel as appreciated as what, but then there's those people that think they're a little needy. But I think they would work here in our county, maybe for a little less money because they're not gonna be doing the run volume that they're doing. I hate to be compared with we'll say in my business, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis. The run volume's different. The cost of expenses, the cost of doing business is more money. But here in Steuben County, I think the people do it, and I really noticed this when I went down to the state for the meeting that we went to. I noticed I used our auditor for an example. Everybody's working. These guys put a lot of effort in, and it didn't hit me until the second day why they do what they do. And they do it for the love of their county and love of their people in their county. And I think we're very blessed here to have that. And all the departments that I see, I don't care which one it is, you can pick any of them. They feel that way and they feel like they're needed, they're wanted. Like I say, I'm new to this. I know as a council, we're responsible for the numbers of this, but I think we're also need to make sure that our people are happy and make sure that they feel like they're a part of something. So I think that's really important. And I know we've had some and we still have some, but maybe they don't get patted on the back quite enough. I mean, that's just my opinion, but.
Well, to your other point, Bill, we do bounce this around in our conversation a lot on wages with council it is a lower cost of living. They don't have the money of running back and forth to Fort Wayne to work every day, which is wear and tear on their vehicle and gas and time and other life with their kids and all that. And we have the best benefits package anywhere.
I agree with that. I hear a lot of that.
Thank you for your point.
And I've said this again, and I've said it over and over again. It's easy when you're not taking a job or you're leaving for another job just to say it's because of the wage. That's the easy thing to say. And it might be because of the wage, probably is. But it's the other things that, okay, it's just not worth it with the wage and the who I have to work with, the hours that I work, the equipment that I have to work with. It's all those things combined to make it, people say it's not worth it.
Putting more on my
because
family to watch my
Yes,
kids or daycare
yes.
costs or, there's a whole lot to the quality of life piece.
Good Lord, your family and then your customers. No matter what business you're in, that puts your customers in an elite business or an elite group. And in this case, our patients are in that elite group, okay? But people want to spend time with their family. They want to, they want to work. They don't mind working 12, 14 hours. They still want to have that family. That's how we believe.
Yep. Commissioner Scheib, would you care to? So, the way this works is I know revenues follow expenses, but we got to decide where we're robbing it from on a break-even budget to budget for it and then hope that the revenues follow expenses. We can't just say, well, we'll pay for it as the revenues come in.
Yeah, but I'm going to take just a little different path because in all this discussion back when, I don't know if you remember 6-7 years ago, there was quite a push to get rid of VMS. So it wasn't profitable. We couldn't afford it, whatever. And my whole thought on this, if we get rid of VMS, we kill our hospital. And I still maintain that today. So at some point, we have to figure out how to maintain an EMS system, work with our hospital, work with our partners. And a partnership is not out of the question. I think it's very possible. Whether it's within the county, out of the county, I don't know what that looks like at this time. But the biggest point is that we have to figure out how to make this work, how to keep those employees so we can service our constituents the best way we can. And with that, maintain our hospital because I think it's a very, very vital part of our community. So I didn't help you with numbers and how to figure that out.
Must be nice not be on council anymore.
Yes, it is. But there are some levers that we can pull, you can pull if need be, to help that funding. We didn't go to the extent we could have when we did our EMS lit. That's another discussion to have. And whether that is in fact worth the discussion to have, That would have to take place before July, just putting that in there.
Thank you.
We have in our hat, and we've briefly discussed it in some of our commissioners' meetings, the opportunities that may be afforded to us in the future, but right now we have a real issue to resolve. We can work on those long-term solutions.
I appreciate that, Will, but
But
since we had issues with EMS way before your time, Jason, they were big problems that you're referring to, and what we've been chasing ever since. We've stepped up and said, but look at our other options and get Cameron involved. Everybody should have skin in the game if it's benefiting them. And so you're asking us again to do this, and then we're still working on a partnership. But to me, as many times as this is coming forward, and I don't think this is the last of it by any stretch of the imagination, and we're still not getting anywhere on how this is really viable. And if we're asking to go back in front of the public and have a whole process of increasing a tax again before we explored this partnership option, I'm not in favor of that. So keep saying that. It's in, yeah, we need to do that. We need to do that. We need to do that. But nothing's in front of us, and we've got a request, and we're going to have another request. So I just feel like responsibility of the taxpayers is get this structure of this thing aligned in an appropriate, long-term, sustainable way. And then we'll see where we're at financially after we've got partners involved that should be. Because that's why we're doing this, is because of our love for Cameron and wanting Cameron to remain Cameron and the level of service they provide. We're working really hard to protect Cameron and for the benefit of constituents, whether we're the EMS transporting or they're getting services. Cameron. I mean, to me, that needs to get handled, and not just a little bit of, in my personal opinion, not just a little bit of providing a little labor help. I think we need to structure a true partnership, and I said that April of 23.
It sounds like, from what you guys said earlier, if we were to do all this and give you everything you want and needed right now, Fort Wayne's just going to raise theirs up as soon as they decide they need more people and cut back upward over top of us to try to take more people. Is that a fair assumption?
There's that same risk, correct?
I would like to speak to the 4 new employees talk. Those of us that have been on council, we asked for a hiring freeze because we didn't want to add any new positions. From my understanding, we have added 23 positions in 2 years. We don't completely understand the ramifications of that because, as you've heard us talk, those aren't even in their healthcare and some of those things aren't even in their budget. I would love to have 3 trucks all the time. I don't think we're there. I think we get to where what we laid out and what we did and get those positions. I'm not talking about wages right now. I'm just talking about those 4 positions.
That's the extra 4 positions in the numbers that you gave us is about half of that increase difference.
So that's why I thought, we like to kick things around here and talk about them till they're about dead.
And then we kick them around some more.
Once again, we shoot it 3 times.
I love that we love to talk about it, but my initial thought is, let's make the conversation maybe just a little bit easier. And let's talk about whether or not we want to grow and add 4 new positions. Is that?
And Christina, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think this is a priority that we need. I think that we have some departments that really have to be focused on. And from experience of having family and friends that needed this service, and the service wasn't available at the time because we didn't have enough buses to transport. I think this EMS needs to be, that falls into public safety. And I think this is a huge priority. Some of the other positions that we filled maybe weren't as important as what this needs to be. He needs to have the manpower to do the job that he needs to get done. And I don't think it's something that we need to keep putting off. I think it's something that needs to happen. It needs to happen soon because the health and welfare of our community has to be at our priority level. I mean, I know our budget.
Oh, no, I agree. But some of those 23 positions have been in his department. We've grown his department already and we haven't been fully staffed. So I don't agree with adding more positions right now until, if we get fully staffed, like Will said, we could always come back. And I know that you don't want to hear that, but if we got to the level of service where we had 2 trucks all the time and this third truck, those 12 hours,
Right.
we're increasing what we've been doing what we've been doing. Because we haven't had that third truck for 12 hours really staffed. I mean, how long did you actually have it staffed where you had 2 buses and that truck on for 12 hours consistently? So you didn't have one person on the third truck, where you actually had 2 people on it.
Yeah, so there was a few months in the end of 2023 where that was accomplished until we had 2 employees who went on long-term leave for over a year.
So in 2024, we've never really been able to accomplish it.
No, because I moved the person that was hired to that truck that was starting that process off to the regular trucks. And then again, we lost more people to Fort Wayne.
So we would be increasing our service.
How many people do we need? New positions do we need to keep all 3 trucks 24/7?
Oh,
4
that's
new positions on top of the 6 I have.
So right now,
proposal.
10 total.
you have 2 open paramedic positions and 2 open EMT positions, correct?
I'm showing 6.
I have 6 open.
Well, okay, I'm talking about the ones that are funded. Because we've only funded,
6.
There's 6 funded positions that are open. And they're all funded at the paramedic level.
Look down further on that left column, Ruth, to where it says open instead of a name.
well, and that's what it's boiling down to. If we get the wages to where they want, I say that's first step. See if they can fill those positions. And then we go to step 2, which shows that maybe Cameron Hospital agrees that we need to do this, and they're gonna have some buy-in too. That's step 2. Phase 2.
Do you really believe that that's filling the position is because of compensation?
I think it's probably the largest factor is I can't even have the conversation with people. I mean, I took a pay cut from Adams County to come here. So I understand some of your idea behind that. There is some things that we need to correct internally. Really hard to correct those things when we're 6 employees short. People are working 18, 20-hour shifts, just getting the crap beat out of you day after day after day after day. I mean, I can't keep up with the office because I'm on the truck. Andy's pulling double duty. It's just nearly impossible to tread water that long. And I know I've had this conversation with Christina. This is just transfers out of this county from Cameron Hospital in 2024. 1,700 plus hours of, I've had 1 truck or no trucks in the county. Close to 55 times we've had no trucks in this county when there's a pending 911 call. I can't operate moving forward in 2025 and continue to send this many trucks out of service. I can't do it. So that's where my dilemma is. I want to provide you the best service. I'm telling you right now, moving forward, I cannot do that with 1 truck in the county. Can't do it.
But our question is,
In 2024,
positions that are currently funded or filled, what do those numbers down look like?
If they're only filled half-time, again, I would still have a restriction. I don't want to send a truck. I want 2 trucks in this county at all times to be able to respond to 911 calls. Because we still have the ability then to split a responding crew like we've done multiple times lately and have a whole extra truck that can respond in an emergency.
I 100% get the justification for where you want to be. We're just trying to figure out in our budget year, what's the reality? What will you actually expend, fill positions, expend, sustain those positions? And, until we get to the next budget year, which those conversations will start in 5 months.
Because I understand we don't spend it all, but it's in there and it's gonna influence other decisions on other fires that are gonna happen. Because I guarantee, I've only been here 2 years, there's gonna be 15 other fires this year. There just is. And so having a better
I mean,
idea.
Yeah, your plan for your staffing level, to me, makes perfect sense. I mean, to me, that would be, that's where we want to be. My responsibility is, you know, budgetarily, how are we gonna get there? What's the reality of that look like until we get to the next budget? Because whether we have to pull some other levers or what steps we have to go through and the timing of a, you know, maybe a partnership or whatever those other options are. Because it seems like maybe we don't have to go through as many steps as necessary if the reality is we're just gonna be damn lucky to fill the open positions we've already funded this year.
How long will it take you to fill these 6, you think? You got that? Is this something you've got people in the wings waiting and it'll be like, in 2 months, we're gonna have 6 new people on and those are good? Or is this a 4 to 6, 7 month process? You think that it's gonna take a little while?
Yeah, it's going to take a little while. But it's also putting in perspective of keeping Christian here. Because again, in 2.5 months, he's done with paramedic school. He passes that, he's duly certified. He can go anywhere he wants. So I need to keep him here. Otherwise we lose another employee and then who's also going to be a paramedic. So, and who's also a supervisor for me, who knows the system, knows the operational stuff, those kind of things. So it's going to take me some time to hire some people. I mean, I've been doing this for 24 years. I know a lot of people and some people are interested in moving. But it's not going to be overnight. You're right. But it's also future planning, keeping Christian here, maybe pulling his girlfriend here who's also going to be duly certified, pulling some people from trial that I know, pulling some people from Adams County that I know. And it might be part-time to begin with. They get here for 6 months. They go, you know, I really like the operational stuff and move into the full-time spot. But yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time. But I mean, we hired like 16 people the first time I did this and just couldn't keep them because of other opportunities that popped up in Allen County and
like you said,
trial.
you have a couple more from attrition or whatever coming up. So you're gonna have these positions that are already funded plus potentially more to fill.
And your 4 new ones, if it takes you, if we did what we wanted us to do for what you already had without these 4 new positions, and it takes you a few months to fill, we're gonna be, before you blink your eye, we're gonna be back into budget talks again, which is the appropriate time to talk about adding 4 new positions,
That's where I was going with that. Yeah.
right?
You're gonna already, if it takes that long, we're already into 2025, right? So, or 2026 budget talks.
I guess my other argument to that would be is the part-time position on issue I ran into now. I had 3 employees who wanted to come here part-time. And one of them said no because the pay rate wasn't appropriate. So if I have 3 or 4 more people who are interested and I tell them no, we have to wait for budget talks. And then we're talking about 2, 3, 4 months down the line before it gets approved. I've lost that window of opportunity to hire them before Parkview increases their rate, before Traw increases their rate, before Allen County increases their rate. I need to pull these people, get them hired here, get them educated and operational so that if Parkview moves the dollar amount $2 an hour, they say, you know what, it's not worth going back there. I like what we have here. I like the operational stuff here. I like we have our own ambulances here. That's what I'm up against right now is it's a slippery slope, but I need every advantage I can get to pull enough people to try to provide the service that you guys want to provide.
But you have those 6 open. If you hire 4, then come see us. Don't wait until you're at fully 6. Come and talk to us when you get 4 of those 6. But I mean, 6 positions is a lot of positions to fill. And then it will also allow us to see if your income stays at that higher rate coming into this year. Right? We're going to get to see the first quarter if we re-talked about this in 3 months.
You're 90 days out from seeing that revenue stream, first of all. So if you hired and filled them today, you won't see that revenue stream for some time.
We'll see
But
October, November, December.
we'll see. I mean, revenue's still coming.
He might be able to show you increased transfer numbers and things like that, but it's not going to show the revenue.
And increase our revenue that
We
much.
won't know what that
That
extra
makes
bus
sense.
is doing.
I apologize when that doesn't.
Yeah,
For a long time, for,
I think you
until the middle of the year.
yeah, or longer.
or
Yeah.
longer.
Right.
And on top of that, if I don't have enough individuals to operate the trucks, we're going to significantly decrease the amount of transfers we're able to do per year. I just can't keep on sending out ambulances and having nobody respond to 911 calls.
Well, let's put you on February. If we do this without four, let's put you as standing on our agenda for February and let me know where you're at with your 6 open positions. And if we need to talk, if you have filled 4 of them and we need to talk about adding the other 4. But I just can't, I just have a hard time thinking we would go all the way to 10 in 30 days.
Here's the other thing I want to draw your attention to. So the study, it's estimated cost per truck, 1 paramedic, 1 EMT. Looks like this. It's not the differential one.
Yeah, they're in your mailbox.
This was your, what you sent out.
So,
Got 3 sheets here.
yep, it's the one at the top. Looks like this. It's the one that doesn't say differential in the yellow at the top. One of them will say differential, one does not.
Estimated cost per truck with 1 paramedic, 1.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so if we take the wage study plus their years of experience across the board and make that raise, and then the change from that raise to what I'm proposing is a total of $6,000, $6,040.32 annually. That's the difference we're talking about from one proposal to my proposal. What my proposal is going to do is it's going to emphasize that I need paramedics. It's going to bring them in at a top tier rate to get them here and competitive versus offer them a $3 experience raise on top of $24.75, which puts them at the hiring rate of everybody else with no incentives, differentials, experience raises, all that kind of stuff. So position for position, both of these are 24 positions, 3 trucks full-time. The total annual difference between what we thought the original list study plus longevity or experience pay was versus mine is it's $1,000, $1,006.72 per truck difference for a total of $6,040.32 difference. That's the small amount that we're talking about over 3 trucks full-time.
You're not looking at all the full number though, right, Jason? You're talking about just wage. You're not talking about any of the things that we have to match to that wage.
Correct. I'm saying if you approve right now what the WIS study was plus experience, it's only $6,000 less than what I'm requesting the new numbers be set at for me to advance into the future.
I think we still need to have a conversation about wages of your people. All I was trying to do in this little conversation I was having was taking the 4 new positions off the table. So that when we talk about what we may be able to do, then we're looking at how we're gonna pay for it. That I'm not saying that I don't think that we need to do something for your employees. So please don't, I didn't mean to be.
No, I'm just saying that's the difference between what I'm asking versus what we thought was approved already. It's $1,000 a truck per year. It's not that much money difference between the proposal and what we thought was passed with the study plus their experience pay.
In other words, some of the increases that we're asking for right now are going to be absorbed in the fact that we haven't used it for the first 6 or 8 weeks of the year.
Yeah, I don't know how we.
It'll affect 26, but not 5.
I want to give everybody an opportunity to say what they want to say. Anybody else got any comments or thoughts?
I just want to say, I think that I'm new to this, so I'm new to all the budgets and how it works and how local government works. But in talking to people I have, I think it's really important we keep our ambulance service. Other counties have given it up. Now we're hearing they want it back. So like I said, these partnerships will be very important that we can make with Cameron, possibly DeKalb County. But I think it's really important that we spend the extra money if necessary to take care of our people and to keep our ambulance service.
And maybe this is, I don't even know what kind of questions, but so say we did this, where's it coming from? Where's it gonna get pulled from?
So do you want to look at trying to cover it all?
If we covered just the wage increase on the open, I feel like that's a good middle spot, right? That like, I know those four, and I completely understand. I mean, we talked today, like, this is super important. It's one of those services like you don't necessarily appreciate or know until your parents or you are having a heart attack, right? You go, where's my ambulance? It's that whole sector, right? You don't appreciate it until you need it. But I feel like it'd be a good middle spot if we talked those open positions and moving those wages, put the four on hold for a little bit until you've got some of these filled, and then we could retable and rebring that up.
Then we'd be able to see, is it truly the wage part that is hindering you from being able to fill those positions?
Then where is it coming from?
I mean, I have a
Revenue is all I can say.
short-term answer to that. I mean, there is a excess of close to $500,000 in lit from 2024 that wasn't used. There's $500-something thousand sitting there that's in excess of what I'm budgeted for 2025 moving forward.
We received 3 months lit, I think it was, in before we started agreeing to expend any of it.
Yeah, it has 513,268.34.
6 months, Rick says. Thank you.
Secondary to that is you also have, again, just as a background, you have about $900,000 roughly, maybe 800,000 built in to general through ARPA funds.
You and I disagree upon that.
Well,
When we're talking about wages.
we've already committed to that in our
I
budget.
understand it's bigger, and that won't necessarily show up until the end of the year.
So,
The third to that is you're going to have probably 60 days worth of budgeted items that aren't going to be filled right away.
so we're to the point, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna comment on what Dana said. The ARPA funds will probably be paid out first regarding the insurance.
It still
So that's
leaves general
there.
funds available.
Correct. But it'll be paid out first
Cash
for the
balance in
insurance.
general.
Yes, it is.
So you'll bolster general
By that.
cash balance year end by not using it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Does that make you happy?
Before we,
It didn't make me happy.
before I open the floor to any motions, Aaron, is there anything you'd like to add to this conversation?
I was a little bit confused on the $6,000 increase, Jason. I don't know quite how you got to that. Did you divide things out by the trucks?
There's a lot of factors in that I have questions on, like overtime.
Yeah.
Overtime and
I mean, I have it figured out to the worst case scenario. And I came up with different things, but if he's breaking things up. But to your comments, Dan, about the WIS study and why Parkview wasn't involved in that, there were no private industry employers included in that because we are a county government. So it was a public sector sort of thing.
I get that, but it makes no sense to me. That's who we're competing against.
Yeah, then why wasn't the fire territory in it?
And I can't answer that. I don't know, but I know that, we had Allen County that was included for the elected officials, and it was felt that then inflated that. That essentially would have done the same thing across the board if we included specific private sector
Sure.
along with the fire territories across the board for all of them. So, you're looking at your supervisors, your managers, your higher paid professionals, that would have skewed it across the board. So they have, Wagner Urban Initiative, this is what they do. They gave us everything that they considered, and they put us all in our categories according to our classification schedule. When it comes to the EMS, they were pulled out of the grid previously. They have the longevity schedule as well. In my mind, when I'm thinking about this, because I remember thinking county council kept saying the WIS study, keep it straight across the board, you know, for everybody, no special exceptions. In my mind, when I think back, you know, they had an hourly rate for the paramedics, EMTs, and we now have an hourly rate for the advanced EMTs. I feel the correct way to do this is go to that hourly rate, back everybody out, and then recalculate in their longevity. Will that get Jason to where he needs to be? I don't know, but that remains to be seen. But that, again, goes with what county council was trying to do for everybody, keeping it same across the board. When we start doing the special exceptions, you're opening up that door.
There's no base to that formula from the formula being what we've applied throughout the other positions in the county.
So that's what my concern is of the special exceptions. But again, I don't know if that's going to do what needs to be done to keep our employees. We do have turnover in a lot of different areas. Keep that thought as well.
There's an interesting article in the AIC magazine about, and in NACO, I think, about working for government versus working in the private sector, and what psychologically and also just the practicality of taking a government position job means, and what the pool of applicants, how different that is, like what they're looking at versus the private sector is kind of interesting. It's not toe to toe like private industry trying to go hire somebody. Anybody else have any questions for Commissioner Howard or Jason?
To Aaron's point here, if you take the study and add in the experience pay, that puts the max I can offer a 24+ year experienced paramedic coming here would be at $27.75 an hour.
Versus the 30 roughly.
And that's a 24 year, because we take outside experience at half value. That puts them in category 3 for me, which is a $3 raise on top of the $24.75. That's the maximum I could offer any experienced paramedic, and they would have to have 24 years of experience outside to get that. That's where the issue comes in. I think the study, if you add the experience, is pretty fair. It does not incentivize me to pull in paramedics who don't currently work here, which is what the need is.
That's part of your starting wage, right?
So I think
Not including the differentials and experience and education.
when we talk about the study, one of the issues that I've expressed to some of you, not all of you, has been, I did not understand, and you've heard this from me, Erin, so I'm sorry, you're going to hear it again. I do not understand how a paramedic came into the same civil poll category as a dispatcher with 911. I asked you this, RJ. I believe that our 911 people take a whole lot of beating, and I believe that they do have to have a lot of training. But they also get to sit in a room. They're not out in the elements. I mean, there's a difference between them and your guys that are on the road, right? I mean, they're still talking through people just like your guys do, but it's a different level, I feel, between a dispatch and a paramedic. Do we have the right to change a classification? Is my question.
So to answer your questions, when it comes to the categories and then the levels within the categories. So when it comes to EMS, you have the non-merit and dispatch. Non-merit poll A's and B's. So your EMTs are the non-merit poll A's, and then your paramedics and your dispatchers are non-merit poll B's. So when we take a look at the culmination of all the job descriptions, all of the requirements, the trainings, everything that's included in those are assigned factor points. And I know that I've explained this a couple of times,
Yes.
But you have a range of factor points, and we don't know what those factor points are. We don't know what this training equals with regards to factor points. That's what Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy is paid for. That's how they classify all of our job descriptions. So you'll have a range for the factor points. People in this range, they're non-merit pool A's. People in this range, non-merit pool B's. Just so happens the requirements and the duties and everything for dispatchers falls within the same range as the paramedics.
So could that have been a weak job description? And could that have been a department head not completely understanding what was put into it to go to the study?
We went through the process though.
Yes, so Wagner, Irwin, and Schley spoke to all of the department heads and elected officials to dial those job descriptions in. That is why we did it the way we did.
I cannot, there is, no offense, if I am having a heart attack, if I'm laying on the ground or I've been shot, I want a paramedic. I don't want a dispatcher to come. Do you know what I mean? Like the level of skill there is.
But you could take a look at, okay, you have custodians and you have truck drivers. They're all in the LTC category, which is different levels. So,
But a truck driver has to hold a CDL and has
But then you have your community center maintenance supervisor or your judicial center maintenance supervisor that are paid at a higher threshold that are getting closer. So, they don't need CDLs, but then the truck driver does. So you have a lot of different job descriptions within county government, and it all has to do with those factor points on where they fall. I mean, you could take a look at this position versus this position. I don't have them all right in front of me right now, but this person does completely different than this person. And personally, you may not think that they should be on the same level, but because of the classification and the factor points, they are. So that's just how we.
So if we felt that the paramedics needed more than if their base needed to be more than what their civil pool B is, we'd have to pull them out of the matrix again.
You're gonna pull them out of the grid. Okay. They will stand on their own until and unless we do something else that throws them back in.
Christina, your dispatchers are a very vital part of that.
I agree, and I am so proud that we were able to bring them up to where they were.
They're awesome again.
I agree 110%. Our dispatch is amazing. Please don't take any of this that I do not think that your people are amazing.
You're fine.
They need to relay that information from that person to, whether it's an accident or whatever it may be, to that EMS service so that they know exactly what they're dealing with, how to get there. And they have a lot of responsibility, not life-threatening as they got to be able to push the meds and do their job.
It could be life-threatening.
Exactly.
Yes, no,
Exactly.
I look at it as like
Those
the
two
nurse, like they're nurses and the paramedics that are coming are the doctors.
There you
You
go.
can't run a hospital without nurses. We can't run
Absolutely.
a 911 center, or we can't run anything first responder without our dispatch.
Yeah.
We can't do it. But I believe the people that come on the scene and put their hand in my chest or, put a tourniquet, saved my
Be
life,
compensated.
should be compensated at a little bit higher of a level.
And I feel that the wages are. a
I'm
little-
sorry, I got.
You're good.
That's what you're paying a surgeon.
Okay, so
Same thing.
I'm gonna say I'm open to accepting the motion that identifies what we do and how it's funded. And I also would reiterate, taking into consideration whether it's just trying to match up with a request or if it's restructuring it, as Aaron suggested, across the board.
I would like to see these three full-time positions that we have open filled before we add any more or raise the compensation for part-time. That's why my question was, is what do we really need to do to fill those three full-time positions? That money's already allocated.
Six full-time
Six, I'm
positions.
sorry. So 6 positions, what do we have to do to fill those, I guess, would be the.
I think to fill them, personally, if I can speak, it's going to require that general increase overall in wages, but that's across the board. It's not just for the people you're hiring, it's for the people you already have employed.
It's going to this top to bottom.
Can I know you were getting to, but can I ask one more question before we take a vote?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Your EMTs, you've been able to pretty much have filled positions. For the most part.
Yeah.
No, EMTs. Paramedics is the ones that we've always struggled with. So my question is, if we figured out and did for just your paramedics, where we have really struggled, do you think that's going to be detrimental to if we don't take your EMTs and your paramedics? Like if we brought this down and tried to bring our paramedics, since you've been able to pretty much fill your EMTs, is that at all a discussion we could have?
Are we basing their numbers off of the WIS study or WIS study plus experience? I guess I need the definition on that first.
If I gotta say, what I would say is that we go take your paramedics to the level amount of that next level up. So that base of 26, and bring your experience pay back. If I was the only one that got to make a choice, which is just me talking out loud.
Repeat that number again.
So Civil Pole C, which I know we can't change them, so we'd be pulling it out, but that's $26.26 as a base.
That's not the right. 2475 is the
That's Civil Pole B.
just paramedics.
I know, I said, if I took it up.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. If I got to choose, if I took the base to 26 and gave you your experience back, range back, outside the matrix, and didn't do anything for your EMTs right now, we talk about your EMTs at budget time, what do you think? Do you want to shoot me? Don't let him shoot me, RJ.
I mean, if you do that, I have 3 paramedics here who are gonna get a raise above the requested $32 salary. And it still doesn't incentivize me to have people who come from the outside come in on top of that, because it's only a $3 maximum I can add to that number. But the number's 26, I can add $3 to it, it's 29. So we're at the starting salary of everybody else around us, who then offers differentials, experience, and the years of certification and years of experience on top of that.
But we offer a heck of a lot better package, and they don't want, and a much better environment.
100% agree with that. That's not the group of people we're trying to convince to come over here, though.
That's not what they're looking.
They're looking at a dollar amount. Most of them don't care what the insurance package is, the perk package is, the years off, time off. Don't care about that. They're talking about dollar versus dollar. And we're $5, $6, $7 an hour less for them to drive from another county.
But they're taking that for.
But you think they're
Right. I think once they get here, they're going to go, whoa.
Look what we got. I agree with.
To get them in the door, to get them to apply, when they go, I'm taking a $5 an hour cut to get better insurance that I might not use. Like they're not thinking that direction. I get the idea.
That's a sad world we're living in today.
I mean, I asked every question to Will when I applied and got interviewed. I mean, I asked vacation time, perf stuff, because I wasn't used to perf. What's the insurance look like? All those things, and I compared back and forth with what I was currently making. And it was a couple $1,000s a year annual loss, but I thought it was worth the jump. We're talking about a more significant loss of that on people who are not asking about insurances, who are not asking about perf.
But you want to take brand new paramedics coming out the gate to $32?
I do not want to take brand new paramedics get out of the gate to $32.
So it's the 20.
Is it a possibility? Yes, but those are not the people I'm looking at. I'm not looking at the person who just graduated, other than Christian, because we molded him how we wanted him to be.
But I'll tell you what Will had told me 7 times during budget season, we don't make decisions based on people, we make decisions based on positions, right? I've heard that, because I felt the same way that you did just there, but I've been told that 100 times. But your proposal is taking everybody to the $32 mark.
Correct, yes. Is there a chance that I could hire somebody with 1 year of experience and they get that big raise? Yes. It's not who is on my list of prime individuals to make the jump.
But you've got 2 people on here that it's making, well, 3 people on here that's making a huge jump for, 3 people that's making very small.
Correct. We talked about putting a bracket on that and finding objective criteria to model everybody against to be fair. That would be so extensive. And how do you set those markers across that field evenly? Someone who has critical care long-term experience, someone who has flight experience, someone who has 911 experience, someone who only has transfer truck experience. It's so hard to put objective criteria in to give you an honest.
So the people that are getting the biggest jump, you think that you can justify that versus the people that aren't getting very big jump? Based on
Position.
It's the position that I need.
It's not necessarily the individual in the position.
but I mean, it's not based on certifications or extra qualifications.
You meet the minimum requirement.
Yeah.
If we only talked about changing your paramedic pay, do you think you'll lose any, do you think your EMTs, you're pretty much there?
Yeah, I mean, at the EMT level, we're talking about 2203 currently before their years of experience. Moving that to $23 an hour. This is not a huge jump there, and I already have some advanced EMTs who
It's the big jump in your open positions.
yeah,
So what about
one
EMT
paramedic.
A versus EMT B?
advanced versus basic.
No, I know, but we don't have that stuff broken out on here.
We do now.
Yeah.
But I mean, on your proposal.
Yeah, I only have 2 of those on the full-time roster.
So what do you do to differentiate their pay?
It's the 26.
6 on his.
Yeah.
Yeah, 32 for paramedic, 26 for advanced EMT, and 23 for basic EMT.
So
But you got an A and,
Yeah, we're just talking about the 26. That doesn't jump them above. Am I reading that wrong?
What's that?
That
So
doesn't
it
jump
would,
it above.
it would be then with, when I said that, it'd be with that experience, so it would be that extra dollar or that extra,
That says it's retired with longevity
oh, then yes.
on that. We were talking, when she brought up go by the study and add longevity back in, it looks like they go, nobody's above 32
Correct.
with that in there, right?
Now if you recalculated at 26 something an hour plus $6, would put you over the 32.
Okay,
Okay,
I see. Okay.
So the 26 or whatever you said the number was plus $6 would
Must
put
not
you over
over
32.
This is keeping
Aaron?
in the matrix.
the numbers I asked you for before, the medic number, the FICA number, and the perf number, without the 4 new positions, can I find that on with the increased amount without the 4 new positions? Is there somewhere on your sheet I can find that, or would you delete those and give me those numbers? I have to recalculate it. Sorry.
You want a total number or you want to make each bracket?
I wanted each bracket. So we knew with the 4 new positions, it went from 969 to 1.3. So I'm curious what that number is without those 4 new positions. Is that okay?
Can I round for you?
Rounding numbers make me twitch.
So it'd be 22,400 for FICA for those 4 positions.
No. No, so FICA, instead of being over $1 million, it would be.
Just give you a total number that
Deduct?
Yeah. So I'm taking their 5,600 times 4.
But that 56, when you're looking at the. Say 5,600. Oh, because you added the 34 and the 548 together? You get 56?
I don't know, we have different spreadsheets we're looking at.
I'm pouring water on you. Oh no, it looks like you put water in your chair.
At least nobody can see to the desk.
I'm sorry. Is there paper? I need to clean that up. Is that paper towels on there? It's not just for the carpet. Is that what this is in here? Oh, yeah. All right. Never boring when Christina's around.
All right, so for those 4 new positions, did you want salary broken out too? We remove those or just we looked at FICA?
So, no, so the medic and EMT line, instead of being the 1.3, without those 4 positions, it would be how much? Thank you.
We have those 4 new positions down at the bottom removed. So you would take out, and this is, do you want total salary or you just want total base?
So if you did his 32, his, that's all the way to the right. If all you did was remove those 4 positions, what's your new numbers in red at the bottom? I'm sorry, if I had more room, I would have had my Excel sheet open.
Calculated, so different.
Just want my number changed in the red. 63.
Yeah, it's,
2 times 4.
so instead of 1333, what would that number be?
It would be 1,151,696.
1,5.
No, 1,151,696.
Okay, and the FICA number, FICA and social security number?
You want that total or just out of the base? We do.
I want, instead of the 102,1183 that you had there in the red.
Just base.
Got different numbers.
Jason, if it's that spreadsheet I sent you the other day, with everything broken out.
Jason.
Yeah, I have it, I'm just,
88,104.74 for FICA.
And her,
128,989.95.
128.
989.95.
And then I have a question. With that, a number, do you have an estimated what overtime would overtime have to change in general? I'm sorry, you looked at me like that would not be a fun number. Fine.
Well, you're over. So what I calculated was your built-in overtime because you have the 76 hours straight time every pay plus 8 hours of built-in overtime. So you can't, that number,
So the overtime that we show in general, that 240,500 is just a guess in the dark.
well, I mean, that's for your
what
built-in
you
overtime.
budgeted.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my question is, if we
207,
went up, would that budgeted number have to change?
No,
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Would it go down though, because you got those positions full? In theory?
the annual budgeted number there of 240,500 for all 24 positions. What I'm spending out of that, if everybody works only scheduled overtime and no additional overtime, is 207,792. So there's an excess of 32,708 in there if we
Yeah.
only pay scheduled overtime.
Okay, so you don't have much built in there anyways. So we don't need to touch it at all. We don't need to, it doesn't have to be part of the conversation.
It depends on how long it takes and how many part-timers get it. So like last year in 2024, I took money from overtime and moved it to my part-time line item because I had enough part-time people picking up. So I could remove some overtime, which is what you like.
I love that.
But if I don't have part-timers and we're talking about, is it easier for us to give somebody an overtime shift to cover the truck and allow Andy or myself to be in the office to do our job? Yes. Now, there's times that we flex that and try to be flexible, but yeah, there's times where there's gonna be people who are gonna be working overtime shifts. especially if I open that third truck up, we're not fully staffed yet. That's where it gets difficult. If I hire one person tomorrow, that person needs a partner. So is that Andy or me, or is that somebody picking up overtime shift for 12 hours? Every shift. Is that a part-time person once in a while picking that shift up, so it's not an overtime shift? I don't know.
I'm trying to understand the bottom number, Jason.
So hard. So hard. I will do everything I can to not go above that overtime budget. And that's,
But
again,
you don't think we need, in your opinion, you do not think we need to adjust it? Or do we need to adjust it because the overtime, because your built-in overtime is going to increase. So do you think it needs to increase?
I would leave it where it's at and we reevaluate it 6 months into the budget cycle.
Okay.
Because I don't,
Totally agree.
if I got a bunch of part-timers who want to work,
Great.
fine. And even if they work overtime, it comes out of a different budget. So like I can flex some of that. So I think we're probably pretty safe there unless we run into a situation where I don't have enough part-timers and I have one person on that truck. Then I have to fill that truck. And me and Andy have done a really good job of trying to be that other person, but there's some negatives to that also.
So
You
the two
know,
of you work your butts off.
wait 10 days for an email response sometimes.
Yes, the two of you work very, very hard. But by removing those 4 positions, we brought that down by 200,000. Is what so what I did, guys, is I just down here where the EMT medics are and the FICA and the perf, I just had her give me, instead of it being the 969, 999, Aaron's new number would be $1,151,691. What did I do it wrong?
96.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was reading upside down. I'm dyslexic.
But we have different numbers if we're going off of just straight time salaries out of that category.
This next one is
Yeah, not total pay.
104. And then the last one was 128,909.
And
She had some change, but I just took the change off. So that gives you a total of $1,368,789. That we only have $1,196,000 to spend from that fund right now. So now, instead of being a $400,000 difference, we're looking at a $172,789.
Again, I get different numbers, so I don't know which ones we're running. But I took their straight annual salary for those four positions at 63,232 times 4. And took that number off of my $1,316,016. And I get $1,063,088. I didn't take FICA and stuff because those aren't coming out of that category. I just took their annual salary straight time off of that category, which is what you asked.
So you're saying instead of, I apologize, I did not track, Jason. Say it one more time.
This is their straight time. Here's a new position. So the 63,232 is their annual straight time. And times that number by 4. Just took it off of that number.
so the positions that I'm looking at are EMTs. They're calculated EMTs.
Yeah,
So
that's where we're.
that's where we're off because the paramedics are calculated at 32,
Those.
but these are 23.
I think that's the difference.
So if we increase that to 32, then that is going to change, but
We're taking these from.
Oh.
He's calculating it at the
Oh, so we
This
took
time's full stipend, it should have been this time's
these
four.
four.
You're right.
Yeah, I have those calculated, yes.
So you're taking only EMT spots out?
The new requested positions at EMT level, and then the total salaries. I also have the supervisor stipend rolled into that.
Supervisor stipend. This is okay.
I didn't do that for calculating perf, I just rounded down.
So. I guess my question is to everybody else. I'm going to pause for a second. I did a lot of talking. I'm so sorry. I've done so much talking.
You have another question?
Do you think we have to do it for your, do you think we have to do it for your EMTs?
You already asked that question once.
That was all.
The number we came up with has the increase to the EMTs.
It does.
So what would it look like
If it didn't.
if it didn't have the EMTs? If you had your EMTs at their base with the civil pole where they're at, the 2203 with the experience on top of it. If they stayed and just your paramedics went,
Well, there's two EMTs that are gonna make more than that. They're scheduled to make $23.53, I think, because they already made the $1.50 raise. There's others who are not there yet, so they do get a raise up to the 2203 from the, I don't know if I even have that calculated here.
What are those two gonna think if they have to stick at 23?
But they were gonna, technically, they're already at the bump, so they should be jumping up if we agree to the WIS study plus their years of experience.
Peter Financial, I used their number. I decided I love them. I finally dug into that packet and light bulbs started going off.
Okay. Did you answer your question?
Yeah, you're talking about $1 an hour or less times 6 employees. And then the advanced EMTs at the $26 request.
Okay, it sounds like a very small amount. I'm sorry I asked.
Yeah, it's a small number. One's making 23.18. The other one's making 25.18. We moved to 26. One with multiple years of experience in our system, one of years of experience in another system at half value when they transfer. So I don't know what that number is, but it's not a large number.
It's not a big number. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
My head is swimming with all of this back and forth. And I'm a cut and dried kind of person. Cut and dried, well, with what we have over budgeted already in that department that we haven't spent, with what revenues you project, which to me is a pie in the sky kind of thing, but I'm trying to trust your expertise in all of this. With what we want to add, do we even have, is it even a possibility that this could even fly? I mean, how, because we've talked about where it's going to come from. No one's really said where it's going to come from, how it's going to be funded. Is it sustainable? We're talking about right now in a budget cycle that we just went through that was absolutely the most painful thing I've ever done. And we were just crunching numbers so badly to even get it passed. How do we do this? What? I mean, if we pass this today, what happens?
We don't work hard, people. We provide services. Yeah, that's the bottom.
Yes, I get that.
So how do you get to there?
Lisa, for 2025, the funds are there without the new positions based on the extra EMS lit collections excess that we have had in advance and the unfilled positions.
But if we fill those positions,
We could fund them in 2025. We haven't, if we don't do the new positions.
and it's
The new
not propped up
positions.
by ARPA, because that's gonna go away.
Yeah.
Because there's 500K in lit right now, right? Yeah, there's 500K in lit.
So by pulling it back, now we're talking about 172, let's say 173,000 to talk about a round number. So we're talking about 173,000. So my opinion, we have two options. One, we burn that out of the 513,000 that is in lit. Or B, there's room for that inside of 1170, because there's that, I showed that that's under budget. If I'm correct, 184,000 something.
Mhm.
So with eliminating those positions, we're taking it right. We're either gonna burn some cash and maybe not burn it because
Revenue should start.
Revenue.
kicking
if
in.
we don't fill it all right away.
Technically, there's more revenue coming.
Keep in mind, revenue goes to general.
Revenue goes to general, so you're not gonna,
So if you're burning cash in those other two funds, that will not come back to those.
1170 is gonna look like it's incurred the pain. But the cash is in general.
Sorry, I was running the wrong hand.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah, but no, it's totally true.
That was the question I asked.
Is that, I mean, and if we burnt that full amount, which there's no way we would burn that full amount, whereas,
We already appropriated for EMS lit to be fully expended, but within that spending it is the excess cash.
right, that excess cash is there. It would burn it to a lower rate than I would feel super comfortable with, but we could work on that in the future. I don't think that there's any way that we would spend that full number because it'll take time
To fill it.
to fill it. Because they returned to us at the end of last year. I love your office and the reports they sent me. I love your office. They had unexpended balances at the end of 2024. And so there was $312,255 out of the lit fund that we didn't spend, that we'd appropriated. Out of general, they left $821,428.50 of unexpended balances. And in public safety, they left $129,491.10 on the table. So we met them where we thought we needed to be, and that's what they gave us back at the end of the year. So if we meet them, I don't think they'll use it all. Is that right to say?
The 800,000 is a little skewed only because of the fact you moved a bunch of stuff over into the lead EMS, but your process, I think, is correct.
Yeah, I think the 2023, we ended up giving you like $302,000 from back in general. In the initial jump, we estimated, we hire everybody tomorrow at max pay. This is what it would cost, and it took some time like we projected. We gave back close to $300,000 in unused general funds also. And that's why I gave you that one documentation, because I've always worked to not spend my budget if it's not needed. I know there were some previous council people who didn't like that idea, but that's just how I've always done it. If I don't need it, I'm not gonna spend it, but if I do, medical supplies, gas, vehicle repairs, tires, I could be under budget 5 years in a row, and then all of a sudden the sixth year, boom, way over budget because of something goes wrong. So it's budgeted in case I need it, but I don't try to expend it unless I have to. So I've been beating up our sales reps, man, every deal we can get for medical supplies and new equipment and everything. I mean,
Jason, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you to you.
That's what I was.
Thank you to your department. Bill, you talked about telling the people we appreciate that we appreciate them, and we do. I do. Speaking for me, thank you.
The room for improvement, I believe so, but I think you're doing all in all a good job with the department. We always have room for better, you know?
Right.
So EMS lit, we believe, has enough to pay for his proposed wage increases, hourly per hour for 2025, provided we don't add any more new positions in.
For the medics and the paramedics. Okay. For the EMTs and the paramedics. We're gonna burn,
I love living below my means, yes. And this would not be that. Unless the revenue toward, at the end of the year, starts recovering.
very specifically.
So we're 2 hours in. Take a 10-minute recess for restroom break. I think we've heard enough discussion. Think about how you would shape or accept motion. Okay, come back and we'll have one.
Go into the cloakroom. This is where we go into the cloakroom.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I forget that we're supposed to shut off all the microphones, right?
Oh,
Thank you, Will.
I got it, Bill.
How do I,
Just hit the mute button, the microphone,
So what happened with the big?
bottom.
I can't see Aaron's head was.
Look over there. There you go.
All right, so just to help clarify any motion that would be made before we would need a motion to be specific. So when we look at this entire proposal, we've taken all of it or part of it. Just want to be clear on our motion, and we also have down in here as part of this proposal is the administrative side of it. So I'm going to throw that back to, yeah, and what date this would be effective. Okay, and there's a pay request change in the administrative part as well. So I'm going to go back to you two to address that.
So yeah, I brought it up early on, but as part of this, I think it's imperative of us to at least take a look at the administrative staff if we're doing everything else too. To overlook that, I think is whether you give something or not, it still needs to be looked at. Now, to the first point of that is, in most, what we've been trying to do and what council's been trying to do is to get the department head and their immediate subordinate at that 80 or 85% pay parity. All right. So the question would be, is this, I'll pick on you, but as the assistant director, should that person be at that 85%, the same as what we're trying to grow, what council's trying to grow everyone else to, in terms of the supervisor and their immediate subordinate. The difference in this particular department is that person's eligible for overtime, and in most cases, the other ones are not. However, with that in mind, the director and the assistant director's job, once it's fully staffed, their overtime should be zero to little other than in unusual situations. So how do you look at that? How does council look at that? I think that's a question you might consider, but I think also, they're, again, in general, are deserving of at least the consideration of some type of wage increase or wage incentive because of what they do. Now, whether you do that, right now they're working a number of extra shifts, a number of extra hours. One of them gets compensated, one of them doesn't. That's part of the job. But at what point does that become a little extreme? Those are my thoughts on that. I'd like for council to consider those. Second to that, and this has been part of that discussion as we see this similarly as to what council has seen using that WIS study is it's a 2-year program. Whether that'll stick or not, based on what the market does, another story, but that's another piece of information that council will have in their consideration.
Okay.
I don't know if that just confuses you more, makes it less confusing, but I believe that it's a necessity.
I believe we've banged through the numbers. Absorb that and happy to accept a motion. And if a motion comes that that doesn't get a majority vote, then a restructured motion can be made because that motion will pass. The process as many times as we need.
Maybe I would want to chunk the motion down into separates like we had to do at budget time, that being director and assistant director pay is maybe one vote. Yeah, new positions being another thank you, or proposed wages. Right?
I agree with you 110%, Ruth.
Okay. So I'll start by making a motion on new positions, that we, at this time, do not fund any new positions.
I'll second that.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Good. Okay, 7. Okay.
Now for the next motion. We're talking director and assistant director pay. And motion that they stay at what we proposed at budget time whenever we did the vote at budget time.
Which numbers are those here?
Is that the 90 and the 73? Am I reading that right? Okay, thank you. Because the 73 can get overtime hours, correct? Yeah. And does, probably a lot.
All right.
Yeah, we have first.
I will second that.
Lisa? Okay, now any further discussion?
So if I'm remembering correctly, we took it, what was the director's position before we went to the 90? I mean, it was a significant jump when we hired,
Back in 20.
when we hired you at the beginning of 23, because it had to be because I was here.
You as the assistant director though.
Yeah, but when you made that jump from assistant to director, I was brand new, a baby council member. And if I remember right, the discussion was that we did a much larger number than we'd ever done before.
I think it went from, don't hold me to this, but for some reason I have it in my mind, it went from 78
From 78 to 90.
to not 90, but whatever our adjustment was for this year's wages.
And my memory serves me about the same.
So we went to about, you think we went to,
I think we made about a $10,000 jump.
so we made a $10,000 jump at that point in time?
Does that sound about right?
With no stipend, no overtime.
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying, history-wise, right, what we've done?
And my comment would be, they had proposed a stipend, for truck activity. It was pretty far outside of our box as far as what do we do in other public safety, it created this, we didn't go for it. So it's with extreme gratitude on my part that the two of you kept trucks on the road, and I know we've got overtime expense in that, but we got to have the trucks running as best we can. And I know it's put extra time on you to get your administrative duties done and everything else. And so extremely appreciative of what you guys have done.
If you can get these other spots filled, it's gonna make it easier.
The problem should go away, right? In theory.
So I just want to add clarification there, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. So at leaving Andy at the 73, rounding the number up where he's currently at, not only is he qualified at the paramedic level to provide the same services that the paramedic recommendation is at 73,216, he's also then qualified in the office to do about 90% of what I do. So I feel like that's an unfair ask for him to be expected to make the same and have a larger workload on him than what the individuals working the truck. Because why wouldn't he just go back to being a full-time paramedic? makes the same amount of money.
So my question would be, what does it look like if your plan carries out? Like, what's your quality of life and time, service, responsibilities? Because right now you guys are doubling down on everything. So, yeah, I guess what,
That's what the hard, we talk about 3 months, we talk about 6 months, we talk about another year. I mean, my hourly time card is over 100 hours almost every pay period. And that's not including the education stuff that we do, the phone calls on our times off. It's hard to quantify all those things. And again, I accepted that as part of my annual rate, and I knew that there was going to be some trucks. I didn't anticipate me and Andy are going to be in the same truck multiple times a week. We're on the truck again today. We're on the truck again tomorrow. We were both on the same truck on Monday. One of us was on the truck on Tuesday. So it's just something to think about. And when you are tossing this around, this study wasn't about me or Andy. It's about trying to get the paramedic level up to where it needs to get to so I can pull in paramedic providers. But in doing that, we narrowed that gap significantly. And if Andy's making the same in the office, why wouldn't he just go back to the truck? And then that puts me in a situation where I don't have an assistant director again. And I can't keep up by myself moving forward with no extra help in the office.
So what is,
go ahead.
no, go ahead, please.
Well, I was just saying, these conversations happen in the budget cycle. And so first month in a new budget year is a really tough conversation, especially administratively on that. And I hate to say that because I totally respect what you guys are saying and what you're doing. And it just is part of, again, Pandora's box. It creates a lot of issues. We can't act on it, but it's tough.
So if I'm understanding, if we took your paramedics to what you want, the salary difference between them and Andy would be $4. Right?
I don't remember what.
Not even.
Yeah.
Because
It's next to nothing.
it's 73,216 on this sheet, if you took the paramedics to it. And Andy's is 73,212.56. So it's $3 and
Yeah.
for overtime.
Yeah.
But all those other paramedics can make overtime, correct?
And with the hope he's not getting overtime in the near future. If they hire the people, then that would lessen his overtime.
And we've always taken that as far as operational consideration. We give it to the lower individual, or if we're both available, it falls in my lap. It just is what it is. But there is times where I'm unavailable or I have a day off and he's the only option. And he's just like, I'll be there for 18 hours. That does cost us overtime, but we don't specifically seek out, hey, Andy, you want to make an extra $500 this month by picking up this shift and this shift. It's always a last ditch thing. We need a truck on the street. So
It's got built in.
It's got
That's why
that.
when I made the motion, I said at this time. I'm not saying that it can't happen sometime, but I'm saying at this
So I
time.
was missing. So don't they always have that built in overtime?
They have all this.
Should we do the next one? Table this and do the next one? We just.
So we have to have a vote on this one. It doesn't mean that a motion can't come back around, a different motion. But we have to vote on it since there's a motion in it.
Keep in mind for minutes, off the microphone, one conversation at a time. Because I think they can't understand what was said.
Sorry, she asked if we were allowed to table. And we said no, that we have to make them, since there's a motion in a second, we have to vote.
We have to vote, yes. But we don't. If a motion doesn't pass, that doesn't have to be our final action, and it doesn't have to happen today. Let me say that. Okay, any further comments or questions?
I have it as the director and the assistant director stay at the original approved wages
First
at
by
the time that the budget was passed.
First by Ruth, second by Lisa.
Yes. And as Ruth said, at this time. I did throw that in there.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. 4, 4, 3.
And that was Christina.
Yeah, I was
Christina, Eric, and Renee.
Okay. You gonna fire the next one out, Ruth?
Feel like I'm a little motion hog.
You're doing so eloquently.
Oh, my God. Now, this one here is a big one. So I'm going to make a motion that from EMS Lit, we do the wage per hour of the 32, the 26, and the 23 as proposed, allowing the splitting between EMTAs and Bs, and have it effective today.
I'll second that.
Is that Eric?
Yep.
And my thought on that is fill those positions, then show us the need, show us buy-in from Cameron, and then come back, give us those results. And we can make a better educated vote then.
Okay. All right. Nice, very clear. Thank you, Ruth. Guess we'll open it for comments or questions. Roger.
That does not, if you go to the 32, 26, 23, then that does away with the, for lack of better words, I'm gonna say longevity, that $3
experience.
Experience.
the experience pay goes away. Okay. That was for clarity on my part. And this is this just full-time employees? That's all that's been,
That's all that we're addressing.
all that's, okay,
That's all I put in the motion.
that right now?
That's all that's in the calculations.
It's full-time and part-time. If you look at the bottom of my calculations, they're all the same. They left everybody the same like they currently are.
Comments?
Just from Jason, you're 3 days into a pay period.
So effective next pay period?
Well, next pay period.
Or retro?
Retro at 3 days.
3 days.
Retro, okay.
Was Thursday?
My motion was to retro it 3 days.
Yeah.
She's gonna have to amend it.
You have to amend your motion.
Okay. My amended motion would be from EMS Lit, doing the 32, the 26, and the $23 wages per hours, allowing the splitting between EMTAs and Bs as requested, and have it effective with this current pay period, which started 3 days ago.
Experience pay.
And eliminating experience pay, because we can always do a separate vote later.
That make it the clearest for you, Kelly?
So I'm checking the date.
So what's the,
I'll second that again.
good, thank you.
Good job.
So what's the benefit is you can advertise it now and not a week and a half. You could advertise it now, effective a week and a half. So you're giving current employees the increase now to try to get the new employees. Just for discussion.
There's nothing more than convenience of a start time and date and not having payroll have to deal with 3 days of one pay period and 11 of another.
I mean, as opposed to waiting till the start of the next period.
Can I ask Tracy if I have it? 1/9/25 is the date I have. Yes. Okay.
I apologize, Jason. Is it changing the part-time rate?
That was my proposal, because if I get part-time people, typically don't pay them overtime and there's no benefits to them. It's gonna be hard to hire a part-timer at $5, $6 an hour less than what I'm paying full-time people. And they've been the same since I've been here. The only request was when I had 3 individuals who gave me a dollar amount that they had to have. We were less than that, was to make a special request. Can I move it? Because we don't pay the part-time people benefits. Can I move it to get these 3 people who I need into the system? And that time we put that on hold until we got this all clarified.
And
So
my motion didn't specify full-time, part-time. It's across the board.
Except that part-time comes out of general. So when you specify the fund,
Oh,
the
see what you're saying.
the conversation would be whether or not.
Okay, so
I think it needs to be a separate.
It could be a separate.
yeah, so let's just say that this motion was for full-time.
I've written that down. That was the answer.
Yes, you're right.
So I'm gonna hold my comment. Okay. Any other comments or questions before we take a vote?
I really think that comment's important. I think you should share.
Yeah.
I've never heard you share anything that wasn't worth the share.
I want to emphasize that partnership between council working with the EMS department for years now has been, we've stepped up and we believe in it and we want it to remain viable. You know, Ruth made a good comment at the end. Come back, show us the need, show Cameron buy-in, show those things. I feel like, again, we'll be there for you. So this isn't necessarily the end of where we're comfortable on all of this, different pieces that we broke down here. But I think it puts it on you as a director, Jason, to putting an increase in wage in there. Make this department work. We're showing the buy-in. We're giving you what you're asking for in wage. We've done it a few times now. But I want to make sure it's heard. We'll be there if the need happens. For the rest of your request for the additional positions, we'll hear those when we see this works. And I think what needs to be on the front burner with partnership. How to fund it.
May I propose that we form a committee, council and commissioner committee, to have that? I mean, we really need to be in the forefront of this, not just say, this is something that needs to happen. We need to make it happen.
Well, this is commissioner's job.
Okay. Stay in my lane?
Well, I think if something happens there that they bring to us, then that's where we stand and say, yes or no, we're willing to support it or not. But the commissioners have to direct this to us.
But having a council member who spends good time and understands the numbers and listens, doesn't interject, I don't think that's we are responsible for the money.
Next, tomorrow we'll appoint liaison positions, and the liaison, their job is to work with that department. And then as far as additional meetings that the commissioners decide to host and other things like a potential partnership or something like that, it's up to the commissioners to extend that invitation to the council liaison. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions before we call for a comment? As Mayo Sanders used to say. Hearing none. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7.
Now, do you want a motion addressing part-time wages?
That would be wonderful.
Since I'm just picking away right here.
Do you know what that would change the number to? Your overtime, your part-time number that's in general? Is there's not?
Yeah, I mean, I made a wish list there of like 16 employees. And it's about $47,000 over budget if I hired everybody that at max value that day. But this is the game of balance. Over here in the vacation, I have probably 2,600 hours of vacation for my current employees for 2025 I have to cover.
Which is insane.
Insane. And I got another 4,100 of available sick time that they can also take.
Now, again, implore our commissioners to please don't take anything away from our current employees, but come up with a new policy.
So the more part-time people I have covers those gaps and I don't pay benefits to. And I'm gonna have these gaps. EMS people are notorious about wanting every possible day they can get off. So trust me, I thought I had vacation days and holidays to use. I don't, because I'm on the truck covering for one of them to have those days off. So.
And they need downtime.
And I kind of, like I've always done, I put both categories at maximum. You know, if I get 4 or 5 employees full-time, well, I don't need 7 also part-time. I might only need 1 or 2. But if I get 5 or 6 part-time who want to be here for 5, 6 months and learn the system and figure out they want to go to full-time, kind of want to have the flexibility on either side of that. I've never been restricted to the number of employees on the part-time roster. Just there's a dollar amount. I can't exceed it unless I come talk to you guys. So.
So
And this is less than paying overtime to others.
Yes.
To cover that, having those people.
And no,
we don't have to
No
change
perf.
that line item right now. We could leave it where it's at and have a
Correct.
conversation if you get close to it.
yes.
Otherwise, it would just be a transfer.
Transfer from overtime.
I had to say that.
It'll be the first thing I look at.
So we're leaving the part-time at the 87,091.
And I haven't made a motion yet.
No, I just wanted to make sure that if we did that no matter what, we weren't changing that number.
My motion is from general, that the part-time wages also go to the 32, the 26, and the 23.
And I'll second that. Same effective date, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Effective 1/9/25.
You said 36.
I'm sorry,
32,
26, 23.
Effective 1/9/25.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7. Yeah, I'm glad this wasn't part of our regular meeting.
Is there anything that we missed addressing today?
We'll be here tomorrow. Let's go. Okay. We've conducted the business in front of us today. Thank you all for your extra time. Welcome a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Good seeing you. Hi, everyone. That's Chief.
Oh, for today or tomorrow?
Or
You did it.